What is up, y'all? This is Mo, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Pavo 25 from BetaFPV. It's another 03 Cinewhoop, yes it is, but this one is a little bit bigger than any kind of whoop I've flown before. At least the Cinewhoops that I'm used to are usually max 85 millimeters or below, so I did want to try something kind of more like a proper Cinewhoop. And maybe this is it? I don't know. I had fun flying it. I know these Cinewhoops are getting a little bit tiring. So this might be the last one for a while, but I think this one's worth a look. I think it's a nice in-between. I'll save that for the review. Let's take a look. Alright, so let's get into some flight footage. Right off the bat, we're looking at DJI 03 DVR, 60 FPS, ultra wide, no stabilization in the flat color profile here. I like to run ultra wide on my DJI DVR a lot of the times. I like the way it looks, makes it look like we're flying faster than we really are. And it's kind of telling with the Cinewhoops, you know, if we see ducks in view, which we do here, and a little bit of the camera cage. You can absolutely avoid that if you up the camera angle. I fly relatively low at about 10 or so degrees. So if you up that to maybe 15 or 20, you'll absolutely get that out of view. Again, I mean, this is only if you're going to be using the DJI 03 DVR, which in my opinion looks pretty good. I like that about these quads is you don't need to use an external camera to get some good footage off of them. Another thing to note, a personal note, I guess, this will be the last DVR that you see that is going to be without OSD. I went ahead and bought the goggles too because I think it's really important to see that the OSD elements on the DVR versus just the raw DVR coming off of the air unit. So after this review, any 03 quads will have OSD. So yeah, it's exciting. But yeah, onto the actual quad. I know it's another Cinewhoop. I know we've seen a lot of these, and this is probably going to be my last one for a bit here, just because I'm getting a little bit tired of them. But I will say I didn't have a legit quote unquote an actual full-sized Cinewhoop, I guess you can say. I've only really explored the realms of the micros, 85 millimeter max, 2S max. And I don't know if this is considered a full-size Cinewhoop. It's 2.5 inches, but it felt like a really capable big Cinewhoop to me when I was flying it. I was very impressed by the power that it has. I mean, it's 4S. It's got big old beefy motors on it. I'm assuming to carry cameras, not just to fly around with the 03 inside or your stock system. But that extra that power that it carries equals a lot of fun when we're just flying it without a camera on top. So yeah, if you do have O3 and you're going to be using just the O3 DVR, you know, for this quad, you can expect a lot of power. Maybe a little bit too much power in some cases. I remember I tried to do a real estate recording just for fun, just to try it out, like no job or anything like that. But the throttle was so touchy. I was hovering around at like maybe 15 to 17% throttle, and it could get out of sorts quick. Granted, I'm not the most experienced, so maybe an experienced Cinewhoop pilot wouldn't have an issue with that. But I think, you know, it's intended to have a heavy camera on top to kind of push it down, to keep it down. And when you're just using the VTX itself, this thing wants to go. It wants to move. But man, I don't know how these things can fly so well. You know, I try to get my hands on as many quads as I can, as many different types of quads, just to see how they perform. And I mean, it's good. It's just really good. It's really good. And these things are fun to fly. I like the ducted portion of them. You know, it feels safer. It just feels more welcoming to fly around. Yeah, just a lot of fun. So now I'm going to show you, I don't know if this is useful or not, I'm going to show you the difference between the DJI O3, that's what you're looking at here, wide, no stabilization, and I'm going to show you a DJI Action 2, no stabilization, and then I'm going to show you a stabilized, the same clip, stabilized Action 2 with a little bit of mediocre color grading, just to kind of show you, I guess, maybe what the differences would be between the footage that you're using. Now, I assume the DJI Action 2 and the DJI O3 to be similar in quality, but in my opinion, they are not. The DJI Action 2 is a lot better. And it also is worth noting that the DJI Action 2 is actually heavier than what Beta recommends this to carry. I think they're really going for the peanut-style cameras or the naked GoPros, but in my opinion, the Pavo absolutely could handle the extra weight of the DJI Action 2, and I think it could absolutely handle even a full-size GoPro, as long as you're doing maybe like a slower real estate flight. No chasing drift cars, I wouldn't say, with the full-size GoPro on this quad, but for slower purposes, absolutely can do that. So again, this is unstabilized footage, 30 FPS. Already, I think the image looks better. I mean, 30 FPS, I think, looks better in general. And then we're finally going to transition onto what a stabilized DJI Action 2 would look like with my horrible color grading on top of it. But yeah, just to give you a kind of a sample. You know, I don't use gyroflow very often at all. I use it sometimes for lens correction to get rid of that fisheye effect on some of my DVR, but gyroflow does wonders, man. It does so much for the footage to smooth it out. It's like magic. I have no idea how it even works. But yeah, with running this through gyroflow, very little stabilization value, I guess you could say. I mean, it smoothed it right out. Any vibrations, or not really even vibrations, just jello from the wind smoothed it right out. Alright, so here we're at the desk portion of the video. Don't really have too much to go over, in all honesty. I just want to touch on a couple of things. First, Beta sends this over as a ready-to-fly kit, minus the VTX, I guess. So any VTX you want to use, you're going to have to do the install yourself. For me, was the DJI O3. It wasn't too terribly difficult to do. It mounts right into this bottom plate here, and that whole bottom plate sinks in. It's a little bit tight. I'm trying to illustrate that for you here. Probably doing a horrible job at showing you, but there's a little bit of space between the AIO and the O3. Not so much where I'm concerned they're going to be in contact, but it's just a little bit of a meticulous installation. You know, there's a lot of wires that we need to run, the MIPI cable from the camera. We have the antenna UFLs to deal with, also the connector. They include a very short one, which is nice, but again, not a really hard install, but you want to make sure when you do it, you're not pinching anything. Nothing is kind of sandwiched between any screws or maybe even the FC. You kind of want to keep them separated as best you can. Take your time during the install. You know, there are other VTXs will fit. Walksnail V2 VTXs, absolutely no problem. Any 25 by 25 analog VTX, no problem. I'm almost positive, but I can't give you the 100%. Check their website if this was something you're interested in to see if the V2 HD0 VTX would fit in here. I can't see why it wouldn't. I know that they made the V2 pretty much identical in terms of form factor to the like 03 and the Vista. The first V1 would absolutely not fit in here. It's too beefy. It won't fit. What I don't know either, I'm sorry, but I guess take this as a precautionary thing. I don't know if the Walk Snail Moonlight camera setup would fit in here. I don't know that. I don't know how big that camera is. I don't have my hands on one of those just yet. So if you do have that and you were hoping to put that in there, I do some research. Unfortunately, I can't give you that. If I find anything about that on their website, or maybe I'll reach out to Beta, I'll include that here. But yeah, also Beta included nice grommet rubber mounting, soft mounting camera plate over here, which is kind of nice. Feels like it does the job. It's a little bit stiff, but I didn't see really much jello in my photos. Actually, I did see a bit of jello in mine when I am flying at very, very low speeds, basically hovering. I do get some jello that comes through the image at a specific throttle point. So keep that in mind. I did end up tightening the camera screws a bit more, the ones on the side here that you also can't see because I have a horrible camera setup, but that might have improved it. You have to tighten up all of these yourself. They can't be over tightened, so they can only tighten up to a certain point. So you want to make sure those are snug, but the camera screws obviously can be over tightened or too loose. So pay particular attention to that when you're doing that install. I mean, the build quality is pretty nice. I like the integrated XT30. It keeps the wire, I just run it up and down, and it keeps it out of the way of the props, which is nice. I mean, the build is solid, and it really is a nice little Cinewhoop. It's just interesting that it's kind of in between, I guess, two categories. So you have the ultra small Pavo Pico-esque smaller 85 millimeter Cinewhoops that I think best are suited and really only suited for using the DJI DVR. Then you have the 35, the Pavo 35, the big beefy Cinewhoop that's meant to carry these larger cameras like full-size GoPros without an issue. And you got the middle child that's kind of almost too big to use the DVR and the O3, and too small to really use a proper Cinewhoop camera. So where does that leave the Pavo 25? So in my opinion, and I am not a Cinewhoop pilot, so please take this with a grain of salt, I think this would be a good choice for someone who just wants to own one Cinewhoop. They just want one Cinewhoop that does it all, and I think this fits pretty nicely in that category. It's small enough where you can fly it inside, with no camera on top, just the O3, and you can get away with it. It's going to be touchy. I would rather have a smaller 80 millimeter. Maybe that's because I'm not an experienced Cinewhoop pilot, but I'd rather fly that indoors, but this can get away with it. You can also fly it outdoors. You can put a camera on top. It will carry it, maybe not as well as a 35, with the full GoPro on there. This will be a little bit less stable. It's going to struggle a little bit more to do that, but you can get away with it. This is the you can get away with it Cinewhoop, but it is a lot of fun flying it outdoors in its naked version without a camera on top. I had a lot of fun. I don't know if Cinewhoops just fly like that, but I was super impressed by it. That would be my opinion. If you only want one Cinewhoop, I think this is a good candidate because you can do multiple things with it. You can bring it outside, inside, no camera, put a camera on top. It's pretty capable for what it is. So that about wraps it up here for the Pavo 25 from BetaFPV. This is going to be a quick summary just to go over things you may have skipped around and missed if you're interested in picking up this quad that I think you should hear about. First and foremost, this is a ready-to-fly kit minus the VTX. So you're going to have to install your own VTX in here. I put the O3 in there, but you can fit any 25 by 25 VTX really, with the exception of the new Walk Snail Moonlight kit. I confirmed with Beta, it does not fit in here. Also, the V1 Freestyle VTX from HD0 doesn't fit in here, but you can fit the V2 Freestyle VTX. You can fit the Walk Snail V2 VTXs, just not the Moonlight one, and probably any analog standard 25 by 25 VTX if that's your thing. Installation isn't terribly difficult. You just have to take your time. It's a little bit tight in there. There's only a little bit of space between the AIO board and at least the O3. So just take your time with that, but it isn't overly difficult to do. Comes with nice little soft mounts for the camera. It is a little stiff. I didn't get much vibration, but I did get a little bit of jello when I was kind of at lower throttle hovering. I did notice some. My camera screws, the screws that are actually into the camera housing, not this plate here, were a bit loose, so that might be the culprit. It wasn't terribly noticeable, and again, that's only if you're going to use the DJI O3 footage. yeah, not terrible, but I wanted to note that because I noticed it. So the Pavo 25 is 2.5 inches, and I think that is an in-between size. I don't fly Cinewhoop, so please take this with a grain of salt, but to me, you know, this isn't a micro anymore. I have a big head, and it's almost the size of my big head. So this isn't a micro anymore, but it's also not a proper or big boy Cinewhoop that carries like full-size GoPros and you can do aggressive maneuvers with. This is kind of in between. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess depends on you. Now, I would say this is best suited for someone who doesn't have any Cinewhoops, is looking to get one because, in all honesty, they are fun to fly. You know, I know we've seen a lot of these things lately, but they're fun to fly. So they want one, but they don't want to have a specific one for, oh, I need this a 6S 3.5 inch for outside. I need an 80mm for my indoor flights. You get the 2.5, and it can do both. It's not going to do the indoors as well as the 85. You know, if you're really skilled, I'm sure it could. I couldn't. You know, it's not going to do the outdoor filming with heavy GoPros as well as the 6S, but it can do both of them reasonably well to the point where it makes a case for itself in that, hey, you know, I'm not the best at any one thing, but I can do everything. That would be the Cinewhoop that I got if I didn't own 2 or 3 that kind of sit on the shelf for a long time. But yeah, that's really about everything. If you have any specific questions about the Pavo 25 or Pavos in general, because I reviewed a couple by now, or Cinewhoops or whatever, just leave them in a comment below. I'll do my best to answer them for you. I recently polled. A couple of you guys responded, so I appreciate that. I think we're going to switch up the style a little bit. I think we're going to do some build videos in addition to the reviews, because I like doing reviews. Companies started sending me stuff, which is awesome. I do like that. I'm not going to lie. I just like to fly as many things as I can. So instead of choosing one or the other, I'm going to try to do them both and kind of put up videos more frequently. I've been slacking a little bit, but mostly been just kind of overwhelmed. I had a couple more projects in the burner here, so once we get those out, you're going to start seeing more build videos from me. I think that's everything I got. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for watching. I know this is another Cinewhoop video, so if you made it to the end, I appreciate you, and I have a little special treat. This is from me and Niles. It's been Mo. I'll catch you on the next one.